Episode 2, The School Field. Preparing for the catch game at the school field later that night, Harry began preparing the light sticks and tying them in bundles. "Hey, Arnold, come over here and help me sort these light sticks out," said Harry. Arnold dragged his feet and lazily walked over and asked, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Harry momentarily paused, sorting out the light sticks, looked at Arnold with a grin, and said, "Seems like someone's worried he will lose." "I'm not, but you do remember what happened to Pete, don't you?" replied Arnold in a low voice. "Nah, he ran away. We all know that," said Harry confidently. "That's what everyone assumes just because they couldn't find him, and the police came. So something must be wrong," said Arnold. "Come on, having the catch game at night with light sticks is a great idea. That's why our teachers are allowing us to do this in school," explained Harry. Arnold hesitantly walked over and helped Harry to pack the light sticks. "Hey, I thought you wanted red and green light sticks. What happened to the green ones?" asked Arnold. "Yeah, the store ran out of green light sticks, so I bought the blue ones instead. Come on, stop talking so much and just help me pack our light sticks," said Harry. "Are you sure you want to let the students do this in the dark on the field?" asked Mr. Smith. "Sure, why not? It's going to be fun. We'll be watching over them, so everything's going to be fine," said Mr. Johnson. "I know, but I'm just worried if anything happens to them in the dark, we won't really get to see exactly what's going on in the field. All we will see are their light sticks. And with what happened to Pete and how he just disappeared, I'm really just worried, said Mr. Smith. "Yeah, but that was completely different. Pete was alone when he walked onto the field. Us, on the other hand, will be there as a group. I'm sure it's all going to be okay," said Mr. Johnson. Mr. Smith tried to continue marking his set of exam papers. Despite all that Mr. Johnson said, Mr. Smith couldn't deny that Pete's disappearance months ago still left him shaken and constantly thinking about what had happened. Mr. Smith kept replaying in his head the school camera footages, which showed Pete's movements on that very day. It was past 7 p.m., and Pete was seen walking from the school library towards the canteen right next to it. He was then seen on CCTV footage walking along the canteen and towards the walkway which led to the school field. All Pete needed to do was to walk across the school field for about 2 minutes, and he would have reached the side gate exit where the security was stationed at. Although the walk on the school field was only 2 minutes, the problem with that, though, was that the area was really dark, and the security officer could not see any motions on the school field from the side gate. Anyone walking can only be seen after they had walked out of the field, heading towards the gate. Even the CCTV footages could barely capture Pete walking along the field, and then made a slight right turn instead to go down the field's slope, leading towards the fences instead of the side gate. What was odd was that even if Pete walked along the fences leftwards, he would still arrive at the gate. But the CCTV footage showed that he walked rightwards along the fences, away from the gate, and then made another right turn along the fence leading to the breadth of the field. That was the last time that Pete was captured on CCTV. Police investigated and searched for Pete but could not find him. Still marked as missing, the conclusion was that Pete ran away from home, and all Mr. Smith kept thinking about was the green light floating about that the security officer saw on the field moments before CCTV footage captured Pete going down the field's slope. The day slowly turned into night as the teams prepared for the night's competition on the school field. Mr. Smith and Mr. Johnson took their spots on the second floor of the building next to the field to clearly oversee the entire field. Down at the field, Harry and Arnold were preparing themselves as oppositions. Harry was blue and Arnold was red. As the game finally began, Arnold kept seeing flashes of blue and red light sticks throughout the field. With the darkness, it was almost impossible for Arnold to know how near or far a light stick was to him. At times he thought his teammate was about 10 meters away or so, only to be grabbed suddenly by them to help him get away from the opposition. Up on the second story, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Smith were overlooking the game. "Come on, boys, you can finish this," cheered Mr. Johnson as he was genuinely enjoying watching the students play. Mr. Smith, on the other hand, was constantly on the edge and nervous as the game went on. As the game wore on, the number of light sticks became lesser and lesser. The players who have been eliminated were cheering on the sidelines, could barely see their friends in the dark. As the game was now down to 1 red, with only Arnold left on his team, and 2 blue, with Harry and another student on the team left, the game was close to over. As it was about to end, Mr. Smith's fear started coming back through the chilly air as he froze. Mr. Smith barely managed to move his hand and tapped on Mr. Johnson's shoulders. Mr. Smith pointed towards the field and said, "Green lights." A green light appeared on the dark field, with its silhouette in almost exactly the same size of the red and blue light sticks. "It's probably just the umpire or referee or something that the students didn't tell us about," said Mr. Johnson. Mr. Smith was very sure he didn't see any green lights being prepared for the game, but said, "Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're right. It's probably just the referee or something." Down at the field, Arnold was exhausted and thought that he didn't have any energy left to defeat the final 2 members of the blue team. What was more draining is that he saw them far apart from one another, making him vulnerable to attack one of them, worried that the other one will sneak up on him from the back. Arnold thought that he was so tired that he was starting to imagine seeing things. Green lights, to be specific. He saw flashes of green lights, but when he tried to focus seeing the green lights, they were no longer there. Suddenly, Arnold heard something that sounded like a snapping twig and realized that he lost sight of one of the blue sticks, even though he looked away for only a second. The other blue stick was still there, moving around, seemingly waiting for the right opportunity to strike. Up on the second story, what both teachers saw was a green light, as though sprinting towards one of the blue lights, which was Harry's teammate, and in an instant, both lights went out. Now, they began sensing that something might be wrong. Back on the field, the final blue light stick momentarily disappeared, and Arnold felt goosebumps on his arms. "What kind of trick is this? You can't hide your light sticks, that's cheating!" shouted Arnold. To his relief, the silence was broken when Harry replied, "I'm here, but I'm not sure where my other teammate went. Is that you, Arnold?" "Yeah, who is still there on your team?" asked Arnold. "The other blue? I have no idea," said Harry. "No, the green!" shouted Arnold. Seeing another green light beginning to appear from the second story, the teachers now sensed that something was really wrong. Mr. Smith immediately directed Mr. Johnson, "Turn the floodlights on." As Mr. Johnson rushed down the stairs and ran as hard as he could towards the floodlights, Mr. Smith saw the second green light creeping up towards another blue light, which was Harry's. As the floodlights were turned on, they began brightening up the field. Mr. Smith rushed down the stairs, and together with Mr. Johnson, they ran towards the field. Panicked, Mr. Smith asked, "What happened?" The boys eliminated on the edge of the field all froze in fear, with pale and frightened faces. "Arnold! Arnold!" called Mr. Smith as he saw Arnold standing alone in the middle of the field, looking around, lost. Arnold then fell in exhausted as Mr. Smith caught him. The rest of the field was empty. The holders of the 2 final blue light sticks were no longer there. Mr. Smith then heard a crunching sound from under his feet. A blue light stick snapped in two with blue fluids spilling out of it. Where was Harry and his teammate? Who held the green light sticks? It was a mystery unsolved till today. The school field that brought joy in the day and horror in the night.